So, welcome to this great show and welcome, Anna. We have with Anna today somebody who is very experienced and empowering impact investment lady. She's in ESG and innovation in health tech and agri-tech, shaping the future, shaping shaping the future as an venture enabler and founder of Women in Investment Network from UAE. Sorry for the noise. That was my dog. He wanted to say something because he always wanted to defend me. So D'Artagnan had to go out now. So Anna, thank you very much to being part of our show today, to being my guest today. I'm very, very happy to have you here.
Thank you very much, Annabelle. It's a pleasure to be with you today and with your audience. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Anna, you are a very busy woman. You made your time for today, and I'm very happy about this because I have some very important questions to you, which we will discuss during the next hour. And we will talk later also about a book you brought, Principles from Ray Dalio, which might be also a life changer for some of our listeners here. And I'm happy to hearing more about it and sharing with the listeners also more about this book. So first of all, let's start with the question. Your career spans from venture investments to government relations. So what sparked your passion for impact investment, and was there a kind of defining moment or personal experience that led you to this field?
Annabelle, I really love this question because it all starts from the fact that I started very early in life with a corporate career.
Mhm.
As you know, I'm a healthcare professional too. And I have always been in the corporate until one day I was introduced to the whole concept of innovation and entrepreneurship as a catalyst of innovation, right?
Mhm.
And one of the first really, I would say, interesting experiences
Yeah.
was as a founder in healthcare to hear things like, well, you should consider having a male co founder, right, in order to be investable.
Yeah.
And, I always believe that investments should be much more than just capital allocation. And it should be more of a force, for systemic change.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, government relations, that's definitely, I would say, an angular stone to
Mhm.
shape the future of investments and to shape how entrepreneurship receives those investments and how we shape policy to shape economies. So I would say, in my work in investments, right, I think we have proven along the way that the right capital directed strategically can really drive transformation and innovation. So yeah, definitely. I think I would say a defining moment would be for me to experience firsthand what is to be told that maybe you need to reconsider how you're framing your project.
Yeah.
And probably the other thing would be, to see that through impact investing, for example, we could have access or provide access to early diagnosis or to provide different life-saving treatments at accessible cost. So I would say investments from there onwards became to me not only a responsibility but probably even a mission, if you will.
Great. I mean, that sounds really perfect because I think you are one of the women, one of the professionals who assumed and saw it very early how important healthcare is, not just from the governmental view, but also from the view that each of us needs a healthcare to just go into the prevention more, but also that this is also something which is political. And if if somebody like you uh, don't activate in this field, then there is somebody missing, because we need more women with a voice which is professional. We need more women which come from different angles, and you are mixing this and bringing it all together in one person. This is, of course, super perfect. So, I mean, you
Thank
have
you.
a very special view also. How have Dubai and Riyadh shaped your perspective on innovation, especially in sectors like health tech and agri-tech? And can you maybe share a story of a project or initiative that truly changed your outlook?
Sure. So I would start by saying that, first of all, healthcare or health and food are very much related. These are two industries that I would say feed each other, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And the way we have always worked jointly with the food industry from healthcare has always caused me to be very focused on the junction of the two disciplines.
Mhm.
I would say, look, Dubai and Riyadh, both cities are at the forefront of transformation. Um, Dubai is a very interesting place because we are not in an adoption mode. We are in a, I would say, we operate from the speed of innovation itself. And Dubai is a place that's making, the boldest bets in technology, while Riyadh might go a little bit slower, but
Mhm.
they are strategically driving long-term economic diversification, which is a step that Dubai started 20 years ago.
Mhm.
So both cities are operating, and especially Dubai, from I would say, leading the way, if you may. I think there's no other city or there's no other country in the world rather than the United Arab Emirates that has a ministry of AI, for example, right? So in that sense, I think we are definitely driving innovation from here rather than being just adopters,
Yeah.
which is a very good place to be right now.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And what I see from the development and what happening in Riyadh, I think the words eyes is going there, watching what's happening, and very surprised how far Riyadh goes, also in supporting women, of course. But
Absolutely.
yeah, and also in the field of healthcare. So sort of everything which is, as you described it, food and healthcare, both as one branch. It's about feeding the people, nurturing the people, and being one of the most important branches, of course, right? So you were
Absolutely.
and you are not only an advocate for entrepreneurship, you're not only an advocate for innovative fields, for healthcare, for everything that is feeding us, that is driving the future. As a part of this, you are understanding that it's also about ESG driven investments. So I think you can say you're an advocate for ESG driven investments. What do you see as the biggest challenge in aligning financial returns with sustainability? Because this is still something people are sometimes questioning. And what would be maybe one practical tip for investors who want to integrate these principles without compromising profitability?
Look, I really love this question, and I would love to frame it within our discussion because I think sometimes people tend to try and separate ESG completely from the conversation.
Exactly.
And when you look at what we are discussing here is we are discussing healthcare, we are discussing food. And I'm a person that's specialized in preventive medicine. So as somebody specialized in preventive medicine, you can't conceive prevention if you don't conceive it next to ESG.
Yeah.
For us, sustainability in the big scope of the word is so important because we are talking about prevention. We are not talking about palliative care. We are talking prevention. And ESG, I would say, is right now going through a major challenge, which is the challenge of perception. I would say many investors still view sustainability as an added cost instead
Yeah.
of looking at it as a value driver. I
Absolutely.
think that's a very important misconception where we need to educate and advocate. And it's very important that we do this with hard and cold numbers
Yes.
because we can all sit and tell poetry here. But what's very important is that we sit with the numbers and we sit with the facts with investors. And we need to put it in a way where we show investors that the reality is that ESG focused companies often outperform their peers in terms of resilience, regulatory compliance. And the most important thing that investors look at is the bottom line. So when the long term profitability is higher for those who are truly committed to ESG, I think it's a no brainer. It's just a matter of finding the right way of implementation. And well, you just asked for a tip, and tip might be such a big word, but I would say one of the things that I have observed as a trend, and I advocate against it very strongly, is to use ESG as a PR initiative.
Hmm.
I think it would be very important if we stop using ESG and if we stop greenwashing to just tick a box and just to fit into an agenda and look at it from a perspective more of risk mitigation and future proofing portfolios, right? I think that's the way forward. And that would also require not only to have the right set of professionals educated and committed to educate investors, but also proving the value of it in the long term.
You're absolutely right. I completely agree with you. And we need to work there a long path still. Because I can remember family office conferences where I was talking about impact investing. And some guys told me later, oh, Albert, that was a good, but I know you can talk also about profitable assets. So couldn't you talk next time about profitable assets? Where I was smiling the same as you would smile because of course everybody who's clever understands latest with numbers, that this is definitely something which makes sense. And I completely agree with you. It is numbers which is in this word, giving us the arguments, giving us also the confirmation. So we should use this, right?
Yes, definitely. And I think it's really interesting because for some reason that's hard for me to understand is that the perception is that any initiative or any incorporation of ESG policies would go against profitability when it's actually proven that it's the other way around.
Exactly. You're
So
so
it's a matter of continuous education, continuous advocacy, and yeah, paving the way, and risking sometimes be the odd duckling that's talking on the corner about it with the hopes that with enough proof of what we are saying in the long term, this is going to be something that's going to be um, adopted across the board when it's the time of choosing what to invest in.
That's right. One quick question
Yes.
before we turn into a small break. You come from government. What role do governments play in enabling venture investments, and how do you navigate these partnerships effectively? And can you share maybe one small experience where government involvement made a game-changing impact on a venture?
Yes, definitely. Well, I don't speak as government, but I speak as a person that works as a venture partner with governments,
Hmm.
and definitely governments create the frameworks that allow venture ecosystems to thrive. Whether it is through policy, whether it's incentives, funding, infrastructure. So I would say the key to understanding partnerships with governments is to look at the alignment. Here in the Middle East, we talk about having a vision. We talk about in Saudi a vision 2030. We talk in the UAE about a centennial plan. right? And when you look at the alignment, or when you look at putting the partnerships aligned to these visions, it's very easy to understand what are the government priorities and how to structure the investments based on that, and with the look, or with the perspective of what would benefit both the public and private sector stakeholders. Um, when we talk about examples, I would definitely look at in the UAE, we have a lot of government-backed accelerator programs,
Mm-hmm.
and this have helped startups in many ways. And especially when it comes to innovation, I think the UAE has done things in a very proficient manner by providing, fast tracking of regulatory policy and things that maybe in other places are not yet permitted, where we made the right kind of accommodations to make sure that this technology can thrive. We have definitely ensured from here capital access and support for market expansion. There are a lot of startups, for example, that came from smaller economies and where their market potential was quite small, but moving into the UAE, right, has provided them the possibility of working from here as a hub
Mm-hmm.
and accessing, you international markets, expanding the market opportunity in terms of market size, servicing clients worldwide, right? So I think government partnerships are always a great way to go when it comes to innovation. I think it's definitely necessary. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that those who overlook at the need of these strategic partnerships with government face a lot of challenges when it comes to not only developing innovation, but implementing it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. I'm very happy to have Anna now with me. She empowers impact investment, ESG, and innovation in health tech and agri-tech, shaping the future as a venture enabler and founder of Women in Investments Network from UAE. And Anna, my first question after the break goes into this: as a founder of the Women in Investments Network, what key barriers do women face in the investment space, especially in your area? And how can we break them down? So also what personal challenges did you have to overcome as a woman in this field, and what advice would you give to others?
well, I think we need to answer these questions and to do justice to it. I think we need to split the question in two. We need to look at the question from the founder's perspective, and we need to look at the question from a female investor perspective, or an investor perspective, if you may. Um, I think when it comes to an entrepreneur, a female founder, always access to capital and networks will remain the biggest hurdle. Um, because investors, they tend to fund people that look like them, and that's mathematics. We can sit and discuss as much as you want and try to fit a politically correct discourse, but the reality is that investors put their money on whoever looks like that, and that is a fact right now, that the investments industry is a male dominated industry. So and when this is a problem that we have in one hand, and I'd love to discuss even deeper if we had to, I'm not a person to focus so much on a problem, but to focus on a problem from a perspective of how to solve it.
Mhm.
And for me, that's where the most important part of it comes. If you look at what are the trends in terms of wealth globally, by 2030, we expect that the majority of the wealth is in the hands of millennial women
Mhm.
worldwide. And with that being said, that means we are having a whole generation of women that's inheriting wealth, who are going to be driving investments. the problem right now, what it is that there are not enough women in investment to serve our upcoming female investors. So as an industry, we have a lot to do. We have a lot of homework to look at. And I would say once we are committed to bridge this gap, we would be looking at intentional capital allocation to female-led venture, where we say, you know what, I'm really interested. Sorry, your startup is really interesting, but I have noticed that you don't have a female co-founder. Why is that? Right? And not from a feminist perspective,
Yeah.
please, not at all, but from a perspective of understanding that when you don't have a female co-founder, the problem is you don't have access to serve correctly a big portion of the market. So this is strategy and commercial market strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be from the investor side looking at who are the initiatives, who are the startups, who are the solutions that are actually having enough people on the table representing both sides of the market, not as a gender discussion, but as a discussion that makes sense to the bottom line of that equation. And again, I would think it's just, a process where we need to shape more professionals within the investment industry to serve correctly all of this upcoming trends in the industry. And well, when we talk about personal challenges, I would think it's as simple as, look, a woman in investment has to, prove herself twice, be 3 times more prepared, be four
Yeah.
times sharper. You need to mind your tone because when you think you're assertive, they think you're aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And well, the reality is that we are all learning and trying to navigate this industry. But if I had to tell women in just 2 words how to take it forward and how to make it happen for themselves within the investment industry, I would say be undeniable,
Yeah.
be undeniable, be impressive. Don't try to impress people,
Mm-hmm.
be impressive yourself, be undeniable. And that's the only way that you can really open doors and keep them open on merit basis.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. These are really great tips. And of course, coming from somebody like you, um, shows, I mean, I like what you said a few times. It's not from the gender perspective, or it's not
No,
just the female entrepreneurship. It is about same rights. It is about also having this other perspective, because we are talking also about 50% of the customers, right?
54%.
Yeah. So it is just also kind of clever to embed them. It's a kind of clever to see the perspective. And as you said, we as a woman have to be over organized, over prepared, over with everything. And we are well known of having also the or some skills which is more female, just as more organized, looking at the whole picture, bringing all people together, long-term thinking. I mean, even if this is in a special case differently, but overall, I think it gives some added value, and we should seeing that. You see also trends. So Venture Factor E is known for fostering startups. What are the most exciting trends you're seeing in the Middle East startup ecosystem right away?
Well, like I told you initially, I think from the Middle East, we are driving trends, we are creating trends,
Yeah.
and we are in an economy that's completely focused on um, driving change,
Mm,
and be a creator economy.
mhm,
Um, I think when we talk about what are the most relevant startups or trends in startups that I would look at are definitely deep tech, companies are AI-driven startups that are currently scaling globally. We can look at very interesting movements on the rise of fintech locally, where again, policy has been adapted in things like blockchain and in ways that we can actually progress at a faster speed
Mhm.
than maybe it's currently possible in Europe or in the US. I think we are doing great things in terms of ed tech, the future
Yes.
of work, and green tech. Green
Mm.
tech is phenomenal when we talk about agri-tech, the things that, because you have to remember we are in the desert, right? And a little piece of grass growing here is a miracle, right? And I think all of these startups and these technologies being implemented correctly are technology driven miracles.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great place to be in terms of innovation. And I would say we have also seen a very interesting trend when it comes to logistic platforms, right? That from being a local solution have turned into, a global kind of solution. So yes, I think, Karim is a great example. It's Uber's competitor. So yes, I think we have great examples of trends that are being set from here and things that are being um, put in an experimental mode and successfully replicate in other markets.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few times already health tech. Health tech is one of the fields where you are also very skilled in and where you have a deep knowledge about. Um,
Correct.
yeah, so health tech is a rapidly evolving field too. So, are there some innovations, and if what innovations in the space excite you the most?
I think the kind of innovations that we are looking at are innovations that are fully focused on early diagnosis in preventive medicine,
Yeah.
are different kinds of trends that are not just a healthcare trend, but a more holistic kind of view
Hmm.
of health and well-being. We are looking at longevity medicine being advanced at a pace that was unthinkable probably 20 years ago. I think our generation is probably going to cross 120 years easily with the level of innovation that we are currently seeing. Of course, a lot of these solutions are being worked at closed doors right now, but that doesn't mean that innovation is not picking in those particular areas. And I think it's a very exciting time to be in.
Yes.
We are seeing a lot of trends also where we see how traditional medicine is being correcting itself
Hmm.
through innovation, which is a very interesting thing to look at. Because I think as people in healthcare, we understand that healthcare is a very traditional and vertical institution
Yeah.
where sometimes we are shy to innovate. So yeah, I think when it comes to innovation in healthcare, I think we are going to see great things coming forward very soon,
Hmm.
and we are all going to benefit. But I think it's all
What I like is, Anna, that you
from the preventive. Uh-huh.
sorry.
So
Yeah, please go
please
ahead.
go ahead. No,
Um,
no, that's fine.
okay,
Mhm.
I mean, what I liked very much that you are not picking things, but you see the whole overall picture. This is something which you show at healthcare, where you start about preventing. It is where you know what important role our government plays in this field. You understand also the whole system where it's important to talk about agriculture. Food security is also there a critical issue worldwide. How do you see agri-tech playing a role in creating a more resilient food system, which might help us also for healthcare, for prevention?
Well, I think we have had a very interesting time during COVID,
That's
where I think was the time where a lot of countries worldwide had to ring the alarm and say, listen, guys, food security is more important than ever. And we thought we had it all figured out. We thought we had all our suppliers in place, or how I call it. I have certain countries identified, and I call them the fridges of the world. Um, and I think we did have that. But here from the Middle East, the perspective was, yes, we do have oil, and we are known for having oil. And but the reality is, each country has their own resources, and we are on a share resources economy right now with the global economy that we are experiencing at this time. So the reality is, whenever a disruption comes to play into the logistic channels, we get to see what are the resources that are the most important for a community to, if need be, isolate,
Mhm.
right? Thrive. And food security is definitely fundamental for any economy.
Yeah.
And I think, again, during COVID, this was proven more than ever. We did, from the UAE, we were one of the countries where most of the population was having access to vaccines uh, at the very, very early stage. But we had a lot of disruptions when it came to food supply.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's definitely important to look at it in a holistic way, because healthcare without food security cannot sustain itself, and food security needs healthcare to be sharp and in place, right? So I think, again, these are things that go hand in hand, and trying to separate them would be a mistake.
That's right. So that gives us now one last question. If you could give one piece of advice to the next generation of investors and entrepreneurs, what would it be, Anna?
Well, I would think that when it comes to giving advice, I would think I would look again at two sides of it. I would say, as an entrepreneur, you need to make sure that your solution is indispensable. When your solution is just one among many, you are not indispensable, right? And when we look at, whether you're an investor or an entrepreneur, we need to understand that the markets will always reward those who solve critical problems. And you can be an entrepreneur or an investor. To solve critical problems, the only difference would be who's putting the money and who's doing the execution, right?
Yes.
So if I had to eventually put an advice forward, would say trust a lot your instincts, educate yourself in the trends, try to understand the technology, and try to look at all the different industries in a very dynamic way, because every space we know right now is redefining itself, and
Mhm.
it will no longer exist as we know it today in the next probably 5 to 10 years. So it's very important, especially for investors, to have a continuous education and commitment to follow with trends, not just with numbers.
Thank you so much, Anna. These were very wise tips for everybody, but especially for people who would like to step and will get entrepreneurs. So